All right. Welcome, everybody. It's me by myself. I'm sure most of the listeners are really happy not to see Bill. I know I am. He's a lot to take. Especially, he has some controversial episodes, and we're really trying to get him some adult supervision next time. So anyway, I'm actually going to do something that, believe it or not, is a little controversial today. Finger taping. So I want to know in the comments what you folks think about it. Is it helpful? Is it a waste of time? Because we all know people in the gym that religiously tape their fingers. Some people don't. Some people think it doesn't work, and others, swear by it. So interestingly, I always try to go back into the research on this and look, and there is very little so to substantiate the use of them. That doesn't mean it's not effective. It's really hard to design a good study to say whether or not an intervention like this is effective. Finding enough people to do it, and really controlling for all the variables is really difficult to do to have any kind of outcome that says yes or no is protective. Most of the literature is from the rock climbing community, and they tape their fingers all the time. And I can tell you, with the little bit of rock climbing I did years ago, I thought it was super helpful. I have pretty small fingers. I think they're really, I don't know, they're certainly not robust. And I'm also a guitar player, so my left hand, especially my fretting hand, I really want to do everything I can to protect them, because we've all seen a bunch of finger injuries. So I personally think, for me, it's helpful, whether it's placebo effect or not. I think it adds a little bit of stability, and there's a bunch of ways to do this. The way I'm going to show you today is not the only way, and I don't want to hear a bunch of people on there. I'm grumpy. I don't want to hear people say, well, this is the way I do it. Well, good for you. That's fine. But I'm going to do this in the way that I think is best for me, and I think it's easy, and I think it's pretty effective. So getting good tape is important. It used to be a real problem where before jiu-jitsu got bigger, there was a lot of athletic tape, and it leaves a lot of residue and sticky stuff. Sometimes it comes off when you're sweating. It's kind of a pain. There's a lot of good stuff on the market now. I don't even know what the ones I have here actually are, believe it or not. So, but anyway, find yourself some good tape you like. You might have to try a couple brands, but I always start off with these little, this is what I'm showing right here, and you're probably not going to see this super well. And by the way, everyone that's listening, I apologize. This isn't the best audio-only podcast today because there's a lot of visual. So please go by and look at our YouTube version of this, where you'll be able to see kind of what I'm doing. Otherwise, you're going to just be listening to me talk about it. So this is what I'm holding up in my hand is for the fingers, is a 0.3 inch strip of tape. What I like to do, and I'm just going to demonstrate on my index finger here. I'm going to start the tape right below my fingernail, right above the first knuckle. And I'm going to make a wrap around it. And then I'm going to pass it around to the front part of my finger. We call it the palmar surface. If you hear me say this is the dorsal surface, the back of your hand, we'll just call this the front of our hand just to be easy. So I'm not using a lot of medical terms. So again, after I wrap it around the first, right below the fingernail, I'm going to pass it to the front of the hand in a diagonal. And then I'm going to wrap that around. I like to go twice. And then I'm going to continue down to the next part of the finger on the front of the hand and make another diagonal. And I'll show you what it looks like when I'm kind of done with this. Then I'm going to wrap it around, again, the base of the finger. Now, don't wrap this super tight, especially at the base of the finger. You're going to cut off blood flow. It's not a good thing with fingers. So what it looks like right now is the front of my finger here. You can see the crosses over basically supporting the tendons. And then I have these circumferential wraps between the knuckles. So after I make a wrap or two around the base, then I'm going to go back up the opposite way and finish it so it looks like an X. And I'll show you when I'm done here. So basically what I have now is, here's the back of my hand. You can just see the kind of the circumferential straps between the knuckles, and now the front here has the X's on it. This, in my mind anyway, it helps support these kind of hyperextension injuries that happen all the time, where we get our finger bent back. So it adds, in my opinion anyway, it adds a little support to it. And it's better than none at all. I typically will do this to all 4 of my fingers here, and I'll show you how I wrap my thumb too, especially my hand here, that's my guitar hand. My other hand, my dominant hand, my right hand, I'll actually tape my first 2 for jiu-jitsu. I think it helps my gripping a little bit. But you can also, like we had someone in our last competition that during one of his, I don't know when it happened, but he had like kind of a sideways torque put on his finger and actually broke his finger. What you can also do with this is, just like those of you that like Star Trek, the old school one with, you know, the Vulcan greeting, right? Let's see if I can do it with this. Yeah. So you can also, after you tape these individually, you can buddy tape the index and middle and the ring and little finger together too. That will give it a little bit of lateral support too. So, and you can still, it works really well. So you don't have an individual finger dangling that kind of gets caught. So in my mind, that helps quite a bit. I feel better with it on. Like I said, there's no data. When you look at the science behind it, all the sample sizes are really small. In other words, that means how many people participated in the study. And most of them were rock climbers at the time, and they really didn't see much of a benefit with certain outcomes, like certain what we call pulley injuries, where the tendons attach. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means that there wasn't, probably not a really good study to kind of, and not enough what we call power. In other words, enough participation or enough people in the group to actually show something is statistically beneficial or not. So take that research with a grain of salt. I really do think it's a good idea. And especially, you know, as I get older, you know, arthritic joints and things like that, I think it feels better to have them supported. The thumb is a different animal. There's a ton of ways to tape it, you know, if you're injured. I'm not doing an injury tape right now. I like to support my thumb, especially the carpometacarpal joint, called the CMC joint, this one at the base of my wrist, and the next one up, the metacarpal phalangeal joint, which is right here. So I use this big roll of tape on that one. And with the thumb, you got to tape the wrist for an anchor too. This is a really quick way to do it. So I'll actually take the tape on the roll. I'll make a pass around my wrist, just like this. Then I'm going to, again, don't be crazy and get it too tight. I'm going to pass it around the base of my thumb, over the finger web, and make a figure 8 around my thumb. And then I'm going to wrap it one more time around the wrist, and I'm going to continue that figure 8 wrapping, maybe a little offset. Maybe I'll go a little higher on the thumb on this round. Then I'll come back down. Maybe this next round, I'll come a little lower on the thumb. So once I get a couple of these figure 8s, then I wrap a couple more around the wrist. Yeah. So this is really nice. It really helps this especially the CMC joint down here for me that gets sore all the time. And then what I'll do just for this joint here, I'll take a small piece of tape if I can find the yeah, I'll just take a little small piece right here. I know you guys listening are just listening, not watching the video, probably want to shoot me right now, but that's all right. Go watch the video. So right under the knuckle of my thumb, I'll do a circumferential one. Just, yeah. And that's kind of what, and it doesn't take long. I think it helps me. I feel more confident with my grips. And if I'm really, like if I was in competition where kind of we're going full bore, I definitely would probably tape both my hands and probably do that Vulcan Mr. Spock taping job. So I can really prevent injuring my fingers, because, you know, if I injure my fretting hand on guitar, I'm going to be really upset, because that's what I do for part of my mental health too, jiu-jitsu and guitar pretty much. And I don't want to take any of those away. My wife would probably shoot me if I'm unable to play, just because I'll be grumpier than usual even. But again, what do you all think about this? Is it something that really helps you? You feel like it's a waste of time and we're just all full of it? Again, the research is very inconclusive on that. So also, it's also good, toes as well too. Obviously you can't figure eight a toe, but I certainly, you know, if you know, most of us that have done jiu-jitsu a while have broken our little toes, especially. I've broken one on either side. You end up just buddy taping them together, and you can keep training. So I like it. Just play around and find a good brand that you like. Ones that come off, it doesn't leave a lot of the sticky residue. So yeah, so let us know what you guys think. And I'm going to segue a little bit from this taping. And I think we had Bill sent me a listener question. So let's see what we got. Nothing like to try to do a face ID with glasses on. Doesn't recognize me. So here we go. So here's the email we got. And so I'm going to read this. I'm quoting right now from our email. It says, "Hey guys, I wanted to share my situation and maybe some anecdotal information. I'm 33 and have always been very active. In 2019, I was diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis and started on biologics." Those people that know, psoriatic arthritis is an autoimmune condition. So this is me now. This isn't, I'm just kind of explaining to the listeners here. And biologics are typically these monoclonal antibodies that usually are against a part of the immune system, whether it's tumor necrosis factor alpha or one of these cytokines. What it basically does is inhibit part of the immune system, right? And so there are a lot of side effects to these things. It can lead you vulnerable to infections because you've basically suppressed your immune system to, you know, kind of symptomatically get relief from the psoriatic arthritis, which is an autoimmune. In other words, your own body is attacking your joints. And it will give you symptomatic relief from that, but there's a other part of that that's potentially very dangerous. You'll be unable to fight certain infections and things like that. So it's not something to be taken lightly. And I know the other Dr. Hardy would argue that we should probably do a lot of other things first before we start someone on biologics. Okay, I'm not saying they don't work. There is a risk benefit though. So anyway, I'll continue the email. So he said, "My treatment has gone well and I'm now in remission, but my athletic performance and sexual health have declined since 2022 to 23. I feel like I ride waves, feeling good for a few weeks, then losing my drive and libido. I haven't had morning erections in several years." First of all, thanks for discussing this. Guys are really hesitant to talk about sexual health here, and I don't know why, but it's pretty damn important. Back to his email. "I asked the doctor to run labs and got a total testosterone level of 402. This was in December of 2023 and was sent on my way. I then went to a clinic for more information. In other words, someone that maybe might help him, I'm assuming. They only ran total testosterone and estradiol, and he had got a total testosterone of 530 this time. This was basically this month in June of 2024. When I visited this doctor, he said, I still looked like a great candidate and prescribed me. Here's the question, he says. Would people be more generally concerned about the numbers or the fact that my sex drive and recovery are way down? Can testosterone pulse from good range to low range? Those are the two ending questions. He said he's not looking for medical advice. I understand if you guys can answer the question. Sure, we can. I can talk about it. obviously we don't give medical advice on this podcast, but I can tell you for general information purposes, and I know my wife is, I would say she's very, very knowledgeable in hormones, and I've gotten a lot of information from her and talking about how she manages her patients. So first of all, to answer your first question, gosh, I put my glasses back on. Would more people be more generally concerned about the numbers or the fact that my sex drive and recovery are way down? So if you're talking to the conventional doctors out there that are just, your regular primary care physician, typically they are treating numbers and they'll say, you're good to go. The other Dr. Hardy that I live with says, no, she treats the actual person. And there's such a broad range of what's considered normal in total testosterone. You see ranges from 200 to 1100. In general, there's a very, very wide range. Where some people might feel good at 500 or 600, other people may feel terrible about it with that level, because we're not measuring the effects that testosterone has on the tissues themselves. And it's very difficult to actually do that. We can just see the levels in the blood. So for that and many other reasons, individual variability is huge. And what Carrie does in her clinic is she treats their symptoms. Absolutely does. And that makes a world of difference. For myself, I feel really good between about 850 and 900. I've been on testosterone replacement since I was 45, so almost 10 years now. And it's made such a world of difference to actually get me in the range. Now, some people might feel great at 600. Again, that's where we have to treat the patient and not just the numbers. I say this over and over and over, but in modern medicine, we seem to be more about just looking at lab values and sending you on your way. The second question is, can testosterone pulse from a good range to a low range? Yeah. You can be a 22-year-old trying to game the system. Let's say you want to get on TRT, and you can go on a bender and get... Do they say bender anymore? I don't know. But anyway. Anyway, you can go the night before, get, hammered, don't sleep, eat a bunch of crappy food. Next morning, you test your testosterone, it'd be super low. So it absolutely, and right after a heavy workout, like let's say you just ran a marathon or did like a crazy CrossFit workout or something the night before, your testosterone can be smashed from that too. So yes, it absolutely can wax and wane in numbers depending on so many factors. Go back to our previous episodes when we talked about the stress cup, otherwise known as allostatic load, says a huge influence on day-to-day variation in hormone levels in general, not just testosterone. When cortisol levels are up from stress, we tend to drive our testosterone lower. So that's why those numbers, I know these insurance companies require 2 separate tests and all this nonsense, but really it's about the person, right? There's other causes. Let's say you have a concussion, any kind of traumatic brain injury, whether it's mild or severe, especially the severe ones, it can impact the regulatory centers of all your hormone production, your hypothalamus and pituitary, significantly. And those people that are under, had concussions, especially multiple concussions, probably should have some hormone replacement. So there's all kinds of reasons for it to fluctuate. Again, let's treat the patient. And to answer your question, absolutely. And what Carrie does in her clinic is exactly what you're talking about. We're going to treat you until you're feeling good. Your libido's up, your sleep is good, your mood is good, your recovery is back to where it should be from your exercise, your athletic performance is good. So it makes a huge difference. So that was a great question. I appreciate you putting yourself out there like that, because when you ask a question like this, it helps a ton of people that are maybe a little embarrassed to ask the question. Don't want to really talk about it. So I think the more we're open about this, the better. So, so again, we had a quasi, I don't know, it's not very controversial, but the finger taping thing, again, let us know what you guys think about that. And please keep sending us your questions. I will answer them. I'm not giving medical advice, but I'll be happy to tell you what I would do or what I've seen. Okay. So, keep tuning in, sending us questions, and we'll be back with another full episode here shortly.
Grapplingwithpodcast at gmail.com.
Yeah, and my producer over there, he may recognize his voice. Yeah, so yeah, send us emails to grapplingwithpodcast.com. Is that correct? Gosh, I'm pretty much a dummy animal over here. Have a good one, everyone. All right.